football game.
There are a few select games that are transcendent. Bigger than the sports world.
Still 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes!
They are a part of history.
He did it! He did it! Rudy did it!
In college football, one such game was played on Thanksgiving Day, 1971. Number 1 Nebraska against number 2 Oklahoma. Bitter rivals dueling for the national championship. This is the story of that game, the game of the century.
Hello and welcome to the story of the game. I'm Chris Fowler. Oklahoma and Nebraska, a classic college football rivalry that in the 70s and 80s seemed to annually decide the Big 8 champion and a trip to the Orange Bowl. But on Thanksgiving Day, 1971, the stakes were much higher. On that day, the number 1 ranked Cornhuskers traveled to Norman to take on the number 2 ranked Sooners in a matchup that basically would determine the national championship. Bob Devaney's Huskers were the defending national champions and had won 29 games in a row. Led by Jerry Taggy at quarterback and future Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Rodgers, the Nebraska offense has scored at least 30 points in each of its previous 10 games. The defensive unit was even more dominant, with All-Americans Willie Harper, Larry Jacobson, and Rich Glover anchoring that line. They were the number 1 ranked defense in America and had already pitched 3 shutouts. They'd allowed double-digit point totals in only 2 games. This game was a classic contrast of styles. While Nebraska was known for its size, Oklahoma relied on speed. Chuck Fairbanks' Sooners were undefeated thanks to an offense that turned Saturday afternoon football games into track meets. Under the tutelage of offensive coordinator Barry Switzer, Oklahoma took the wishbone offense to a new level. With quarterback Jack Mildred running the show and Greg Pruitt averaging 9.5 yards every carry, this offense shattered records and averaged 45 points a game. As the teams got ready to play, an estimated 55 million people across America got ready to spend their Thanksgiving afternoon watching this game on TV. Nebraska at Oklahoma, the game sports fans have been waiting all year for.
At last, the day has arrived. The game that everybody has been talking about in college football. The defending national champions from Nebraska, playing their arch rivals from Oklahoma, ranked number 2.
Well, this is it. This is the big one. And as somebody said, the countdown has begun, and in 15 minutes there will be a shootout at the OK Corral.
The game to decide who is number 1. The 2 top-ranked teams in the nation.
What a picture and what a setting for one of the greatest college football games of the century.
A football classic that's been building for weeks.
Nebraska won the national title in 1970, and most people felt they would be good in 71. And when Oklahoma beat Texas, I mean, they kicked the daylights out of Texas. Everybody looked at the schedule and said, oh boy, Thanksgiving Day, Oklahoma and Nebraska.
It was 2 teams that were definitely the best teams in the country that were on a collision course.
It had a 6-week buildup of both teams winning by these prodigious scores, beating everybody, stomping on people.
I arrived in Norman, Oklahoma on Sunday night before the game, and on Monday morning there were more than 100 writers from all over the nation.
Every known sports writer in football was there.
When Dan Jenkins comes to Norman, Oklahoma on a Tuesday, you know it's a pretty special time.
Both teams were undefeated. They were ranked 1 and 2, and you had a feeling, having seen them earlier in the year 2 or 3 times each, that they might play up to their potential.
It was really a big-time affair. It was like the World Series or the Olympics. It was really big.
Just go out in public one time, one day, in Oklahoma City or Norman or wherever, and you understood how important the game was.
We knew that these were the 2 best football teams, and the winner was going to go home with the trophy.
Here we are today with Oklahoma and Nebraska not only number 1 and number 2, but Oklahoma is the nation's top offensive team. Nebraska is the nation's top defensive team. As they say, something has got to give.
The media had talked about, I think, the irresistible force in the movable object.
All right, well, here is the look at the defense for Nebraska, because that is what their metal is, really. First in total defense, second in rushing defense, and second in scoring defense.
Another interesting statistic, of course, is that their first defensive unit has only had 5 touchdowns scored on them all year. So their average of points scored against them is 3.5 per game.
You know, but one thing, this is the first time they're ever going to see the wishbone. Strangely enough, they have not played against it. How do you think they'll do first time out?
Well, the timing of the wishbone's a little bit quicker and a little bit faster, and it'll take them a little time, I think, to get used to it. Well, the wishbone offense is really, at the moment, slightly ahead of the defense. The options along the line of scrimmage are very difficult to play defensively.
We feel we're the best, they feel they're the best. It's like a big heavyweight bout. And, you know, let's get it on and go out there.
When we return to the story of the game, the kickoff of the game of the century.
Yes, there you see a sellout crowd, probably the largest in the history of football here in Norman, Oklahoma. Somewhere near 64,000 fans on the artificial turf. There is one area that's important today, and that is the neutral zone, which perhaps you may know is the length of the football. That's the battle line. You're looking at it now. The team that seizes control of this area will win. Face to face on the left, number 54, Tom Brahaney, an All-American from Oklahoma. And on the right, number 70, Rich Glover of Nebraska. They and the men on either side of them are not as publicized as the backs or ends, but the victors in this area of warfare this afternoon will be the winners of the game. Going back deep now, as it'll be Nebraska receiving number 20, the best in the country, returning kicks Johnny Rogers. Number 35 on the far side is Jeff Kenny. Kicking off for the Oklahoma Sooners in the red jerseys, John Carroll, number 10. A 25-mile-an-hour wind coming from right to left. And here it is. This is an opportunity for the real Big Red to stand up. And after 60 minutes, we'll know what team is at the top of the spot. Nebraska in white. They have their scarlet football pants. Oklahoma on the right with crimson jerseys and white pants. We hope you're watching in color, you're comfortable, and as soon as that ball is touched, the game will be underway. Johnny Rogers in his own end zone, 5, 10, 15, 20, coming out to the 25, and he was right about 5 yards of his average kickoff return. Okay, Bud, we're ready as we look at the Nebraska line. Cox and List to the ends, with White and Johnson the tackles, Withman and Rupert the guards, Dumler is the center. While in the backfield, Jerry Taggy, number 14, a great rusher, 35, Jeff Kenny, the fullback, Bill Olds, 44, and Johnny Rogers, number 20. Watch for him. At the moment, he's just outside the near side tackle. We have Cox also outside, so from the 26-yard line, first down, Nebraska. Jerry Taggy. And his very first pass is completed to Johnny Rogers.
I was really a little surprised, Chris. It is a strong wind from the right of your screen to the left of the screen. Oklahoma, however, with the potent offense, having won the toss, chose to kick the ball, taking the wind rather than to unleash their own wishbone.
A beautiful 7-yard gain, so it's second down and 3. There you see the wind. It's dying down just a bit, the little gust from the 33-yard line. Nebraska, Jerry Taggy, number 14. And to the deep back, it's Jeff Kenny, who is stopped after a yard gain. And it's done by Mark Driscoll, number 59, who is joined by 43 Aycock, 81 Qualls. In the linebacker positions, we have Raymond Hamilton and Lionel Day as the ends. Moore and Selman are the tackles defensively, with Pope, Roach, Shelley, and O'Shaughnessy in the defensive backfield. No gain on the play, so it's third down and 3. The real test for the Nebraska defense right off. Rogers to the far side. Taggy. And a 2-yard gain. It doesn't appear that they made it, so the Oklahoma defense, which hasn't received much publicity because of the potent offense of the wishbone, have done their job, with Aycock leading the defensive move at about the 35, Bud.
We're going to have a measurement, Chris, but quite positive you called it correctly. Oklahoma's defense this afternoon will play a very much of an attacking pattern of play. By that, I know that they feel that they must force Nebraska to make it across the line of scrimmage, and when you are forcing everything, you're vulnerable to the big gain. But Nebraska will have the ball all day if you don't play it that way.
All right. Now in the punt. for Nebraska. We have number 26, Jeff Hughes. John Shelley is deep for the Oklahoma Sooners in the area of the 28-yard line. He's looking at the ball. It takes a bounce in reverse, and finally, very wisely, downed at the 32-yard line by Doug Dumler, who snapped the ball. A 32-yard punt, and now with the wind to their back after stopping Nebraska. Nebraska moved the ball 9 yards, were forced to punt, and there's the offensive line for the Sooners. Jack Mildren, the cornerback. Roy Bell is starting instead of junior Joe Wiley, a sensation, but you'll see him later. And the real sensation, number 30, Greg Pruitt. Leon Crosswhite, number 17, is the fullback. Here's the wishbone now. 1st and 10 for the Sooners with the ball at the 33. And Leon Crosswhite, number 17, carried on the play. All-American Larry Jacobson, number 75, and Glover, number 79 in white, made the stop.
Let's watch Glover. We had him on against Brahaney just before we kicked the ball off, and he's defeating Brahaney here and making the tackle of Crosswhite.
Right before we got together, me and Tom Brahaney, he was laughing. I want to say we had a little smile on his face, and I didn't have a smile on my face, and just told him he just didn't know what he was in for this day.
Two All-Americans having a battle up front. Let's see them now. They're head-to-head right there. Almost looks illegal as we're on a 2nd down and 8 from the 35. Mildren trying to pull away but couldn't. Jack Mildren as number 45, Bob Terrio, who has made more solo tackles on the Nebraska defensive unit than any of the players. All right, number 45 in white, Bob Terrio. Tim Welch is in at fullback for Oklahoma. 3rd and 7 for the Sooners. And the wishbone is being effectively defensed by the Nebraska unit. Mildren carrying, and Jim Branch, number 51 in the white jersey, made the stop right at about the 38-yard line. It'll be 4th down and 5, Bud.
As the ball is snapped, Nebraska has 11 men coming toward that line of scrimmage, and they're going to be a little vulnerable for the play-action passes that operate off the wishbone fakes.
Joe Wiley back to punt. Johnny Rogers, number 20.
Our broadcaster, Lau Bremser, nicknamed him Johnny the Jet. And you knew any time that Johnny Rogers touched the football, he was electrifying.
He ran off the page. I mean, you'd be typing your story and he'd run away from it. He'd run out in the margin.
I think of all the players I was ever around, Johnny probably could impact a game more different ways than anybody that I ever coached.
Johnny Rogers is still, I guess, the only football player that I can recall who every time he got ready to touch the ball or touched the ball, everybody in the stadium got ready to stand up.
Because they knew something was going to happen. And it was electric.
A lot of people didn't know Johnny and I were friends, but we talked week in and week out, about what we were going to do when we met.
I told him we were going to spank him like a 4-year-old in Kmart.
He returns punts as well as kickoffs. It's high in the air, which is what Wiley wanted to do, so there'd be kick coverage, and Rogers gets away. Look at that. Johnny Rogers. Look at the moves by that sensational player, a native of Omaha, and he is gone.
Holy moly! Man, woman, and child did that. Put him in the aisles. Johnny the Jet Rogers just tore them loose from their shoes.
I was the first guy down on Johnny, and we had been taught week in and week out, you break down on a guy and don't take his first move.
The closer he got to me and I could feel him on me, the more confident I was that I could shake him at this time.
Because of the friendship that we had, I wanted to really get him so I could brag about it.
But when you're coming down full speed and you want it so bad, he wants to just tear me up, blast me, then that's when I get to feel a little bit better about it, because I'm already broke down. I'm already under control.
I got to him, I had a chance, I thought, of getting him before he got started. I was able to get a hand on him, just enough to pull him out of the reaches of two other guys that were about to hit him.
Luckily, he knocked me to my, to my hand. I brought one hand down, and I was able to shake him and get on by. I think I ran to the right. I felt the pressure to the right. They forced me to go back to the middle. When I got to the middle, the referee was in the way. He forced me to break back to my right against the grain. And then when I got to the grain, I had to fight to get to the sideline, as you're really supposed to do, and then try to cut back again if you have to.
Now he's in the open field, and he's off and running.
It's just amazing that it will go out in history, though, that Greg will be laying flat on his face, and I'll be going down the field that's kind of hard for him to handle sometimes.
I'm reliving it now. I can see it just as vivid, and I can hear the coach saying, break down.
Had a neighbor for years who once a week, I think, played Lyle Bremser's radio tape of the Johnny Rogers run.
Holy moly! Man, woman, and child did that. Put them in the aisles. Johnny the Jet Rogers just tore them loose from their shoes.
After that particular run, I had to barf afterwards to let some of that excitement go, but the only problem is it was the first quarter. We still had three more quarters to go.
When we return to the story of the game, the second quarter of the game of the century. After Johnny Rogers' unbelievable punt return, the Sooners were able to drive into Husker territory. But the drive stalled, and Oklahoma was forced to kick a field goal. When the Sooners got the ball back, they again drove into Nebraska territory when Greg Pruitt fumbled and Nebraska recovered. The Huskers were able to capitalize when Jeff Kinney capped a 12-play, 54-yard drive with a 1-yard plunge to make the score 14-3. Being behind with only 3 points on the board was definitely foreign territory to Oklahoma. After Barry Switzer convinced Chuck Fairbanks to switch to the unorthodox wishbone formation in 1970, the Sooners' offense had become virtually unstoppable.
The offense, without question, is the finest rushing scheme that's ever been devised, innovated in football, and it just outnumbers the defense on the perimeters. It's 3-on-2, 2-on-1, and 1-on-none if you execute.
We didn't know much about the wishbone at that time, and it was very explosive.
The most hidden secret about the wishbone is that it was easy to defend on paper. But once the X's and the O's started to move, it was a different story.
I recognize the tremendous rushing potential this scheme had, and we were obviously changed to it in 1970, and then 71 became the greatest rushing offense that has ever played the game.
The Oklahoma runners see their phenomenal average per carry. Pruitt 9.5, Mildren 6.3, Crosswhite 5. Everybody averaging over 5 yards per try for the season.
Boy, we had the guys that could run, and you give us a chance on the corner, and we're 70. I mean, it's, you know, it's a tapioca, you know, see you later kind of thing.
We want to take the ball away from Pruitt on the pitch because Pruitt has just been tearing everybody up, and we want to make Jack Mildren beat us.
And they're certainly giving Pruitt no daylight at all.
What they did is overplay outside, and if we were going to beat them, we were going to beat them actually with leaving the ball with the fullback or making the quarterback keep the ball, but definitely not open the pitch lane.
Their scheme was their defensive ends were running on the snap of the ball to take the pitch away.
They were going to stop that wide option because the big wide option, the pitch from Mildren to Pruitt, was the one way that Oklahoma had a chance to beat them bad and really bruise them and really sear them, you know, burn them good. They were going to stop that. They were going to make Oklahoma beat them up the middle or with a forward pass, and they didn't think Oklahoma could beat them that way.
As a defensive tackle, my job was to take the fullback out on every play, whether he had the ball or didn't have the ball. The end's job was to take a pitch away to make Mildren run.
Coach Monty Kiffin said if you could do this right here, we could stop that dive and make Jack Mildren run the football, we're going to beat them.
They said, we're going to make the quarterback run the ball. I think I carried the ball more those days, that day, than at any other time during the year. And it was not necessarily a choice of mine.
So far, the Nebraska game plan had worked. And as we go back to Norman, the Sooners had the ball back, trailing 14-3 in the second quarter.
And there you see the yardage situation. Third down. The ball is at the 37. Third down, and let's call it 3. Nebraska leading 14-3 with 7:44 to go in the first half. Mildren, first down for Oklahoma. And boy, when things do break with the wishbone, they happen in a hurry.
The wishbone is the wishbone, and you pick how you want to die, what poison you want that team to use.
First and 10 at the 25 of Nebraska, Oklahoma with the ball. Harrison 12 at the bottom of your screen. But that is just beautifully executed. Glover 79, 27 Blahak.
And this is the quarterback counter that Oklahoma has not run so far this year. Mildren will make a quick fake to the right of your screen, and Glover will move with the first fake, and Mildren simply slips out around, and that fake helped Brahaney's block as he turned Glover very effectively here.
Boy, 2 All-Americans, 54 in the red jersey, Brahaney of Oklahoma, 79 Glover.
The crowd's cheering, Chris, but if I were Chuck Fairbanks, I'd rather been a foot short and had one more down.
All right. The ball is at the 15 of Nebraska. First down, and we have 7:03 to go in the first half. 14-3, Nebraska leading. The number 2 team in the nation, Oklahoma, with the ball.
The reason I said that, of course, was they're on the 15-yard line. If they get more snaps to get it in, they're more likely to get it there.
Mildren giving to Crosswhite. Crosswhite, 6'2", 203 pounds, is stopped by Branch, 51. Bob Terrio is out of the lineup. Number 45, having sprained his knee, Pat Morrell, number 40, is in there at the moment, but we get word that Terrio will be back. So the ball is near the 10. Oklahoma with a second down and 6. Leon Crosswhite, the junior from Hennessy, Oklahoma, moves right down to the 5-yard line.
And the way the Oklahoma offense is using Pruitt now as a back to fake to is setting up the inside plays for Crosswhite. They're worried, Nebraska, logically about Pruitt because he is the game breaker.
Number 45, Terrio, the linebacker, is in there again. And by the way, a great block by Ken Jones of Omaha, the right guard. On the last play, as we have a first and goal to go at the 5 for Oklahoma. Jack Mildren had a little bit of a head start, but Terrio, 45, was at his back, along with 25, Dave Mason. And one more, number 90, John Dutton, a sophomore from Rapid City, South Dakota. As you see the situation here in the first half, clock running, 5:32, 14-3, Nebraska leading. And here is a second down and goal to go. Let's call it the 2. Oklahoma started this drive at their own 20, trying to cap an 80-yard march. 13th play of this drive coming up. There it is. Just waltzes in. Jack Mildren of the Sooners.
And some block by Crosswhite.
Wasn't it beautiful? His 14th touchdown rushing. He is nearing the 1,000-yard rushing mark. The quarterback, Jack Mildren,
averaging 6.3 per attempt coming into this game.
We could not have done and accomplished what we did in offense that year had we not had Jack Mildren. We couldn't have gone to the wishbone offense the previous year without his talents and abilities, because Jack was the father of the wishbone. Jack was the first great option quarterback. There have been a lot of good quarterbacks since, a lot of great quarterbacks in the option game since. A lot of them have played at Oklahoma, but Jack was the first great one.
We will return with more from the game of the century on the story of the game. Welcome back to the story of the game. I'm Chris Fowler. We obviously know much more about food and nutrition now than we did back in 1971. But in preparing for this game, the Cornhuskers were so wary of what they might eat in Oklahoma, they took the term food to go to a new level.
Thursday morning before the game, we brought all of our own food. We brought all of our own steaks. We even brought our own salad dressing, because we had heard one time, I think it was Army or somebody, Michigan, got food poisoning before a big game, so we brought all of our own food. We didn't want to take any chances. Who knows what those Okies were going to try to do to us.
After Jack Mildren's touchdown made it a 4-point game, the Huskers offense went back to work. They took over on their own 47, but only managed 14 yards in 5 plays and missed a 56-yard field goal. Oklahoma started to march in for the go-ahead score when they committed their second turnover of the day. This time it was a Tim Welsh fumble recovered by Rich Glover on the Nebraska 27. The Huskers were unable to gain a first down and had to punt. As we rejoin the action, Oklahoma has the ball, trailing 14-10 with only 51 seconds left in the first half.
Don't forget, coming up after 51 seconds on the clock have elapsed, 2 great bands from the 2 universities will perform. You'll enjoy it. Mildren calls his own number. And Lahawk comes up to make the stop. John Atkins joined Blahak on the play at the 27-yard line. So it'll now be a 2nd down and 5, and we look at the clock. It's stopped with 33 seconds to go, Bud.
And Oklahoma has just used their first timeout. They'll have 2 remaining, but it's awfully hard, Chris, with this offense to break the long gainer. It's not a good come-from-behind offense because you can give teams short yardage on running plays.
The basic idea was if we can make a 1st down, let's see what happens.
Jack Mildren, number 11, calling signals now with a 2nd down and 5. From his own 27-yard line, 33 seconds to go, first half, trailing 14-10. Joe Wiley, number 22, coming up near a 1st down.
We ran a couple of plays and we make a 1st down, and Harrison, as he's running across, says, I can beat this guy deep.
We changed our pass defense because they didn't pass that much, and we put a kid by the name of Billy Cush man-to-man on their wide receivers. And he hadn't played man-to-man since he was in junior high.
Clock running, 1st down play. Mildren looking to throw, loops one out. It's coming in the area of Harrison. He has it. Harrison.
He makes one of those acrobatic catches. I'd like to tell you it was a tight spiral, but I think the thing kind of wobbled like mine do.
The defender, number 24, Bill Cush, lost the helmet, and the play goes to the 24-yard line of Nebraska.
Billy got his helmet knocked off, and he was still putting his helmet on when they started the next play.
And as soon as that's over, he's running by and said, go right to the corner. Bing.
That's Kosh overrunning it.
1st and 10 with the clock running, and there is a touchdown, Oklahoma, John Harrison.
I wouldn't have believed that, Chris.
78 yards, 4 plays, showing you the explosiveness of the Wishbone offense. And Jack Mildren, coming into this game, had only completed 22 of 45 passes, but he ripped Nebraska with 2 passes in particular to take the lead.
You know, all of a sudden we're ahead. And what a magical moment. You know, what a great emotional lift for us, for the stadium, for the fans. The first time all year Nebraska had been behind. Well, that's powerful in its own right.
We will return with the 2nd half of Oklahoma and Nebraska from 1971 on the story of the game. The Sooners took their lead into the locker room. Now, the interesting part about this was that Barry Switzer was on his way to the locker room from the press box where he called the Oklahoma plays. He had missed the go-ahead drive. Jack Mildren called his own plays in that 4-play drive. When Switzer got to the locker room and saw the Oklahoma players excited, he asked him why. He said, Coach, we just took the lead. And Nebraska was forced to punt on the Cornhuskers' first possession of the 3rd quarter. Oklahoma blew its chance to add to the lead when the Sooners turned the ball over for a 3rd time, with Mildren self-admittedly carrying the ball like a loaf of bread. He fumbled, Nebraska recovered. Now, most of the pregame conjecture around the Oklahoma-Nebraska game focused on the catch-22 nature of the Wishbone offense.
Oklahoma plays a high-risk offense. By that I mean they handle the ball along the line of scrimmage with those options, and they are slightly prone to fumble. Any team is when you handle the ball that way. I don't believe Oklahoma can lose the ball more than 2 times on fumbles and still win, and their average for the season is losing the ball 2.8. So that's going to be a very important factor.
Coaching it, we didn't feel that it was that high risk. If you coach it well, the techniques, the mechanics of the offense, and the rules of execution for the quarterback, fumbles are always a part of football. But the actual mechanics of running the offense, we did not feel caused many of those fumbles. Fumbles were because of collisions.
Barry told me, I wrote a pregame story for Sports Illustrated in which I said, Oklahoma cannot win the game if they lose 3 fumbles, because they've been averaging losing 3 fumbles against lesser teams. They couldn't lose 3 fumbles and beat Nebraska. Barry's the guy who had told me that. He said, we can't lose 3 fumbles out of the wishbone and beat Nebraska.
And we have significantly outgained them, and yet they're in the ball game. By any other rights, we should at least have a 10-point lead, if not more, and who knows what that does.
As we return to the action, Nebraska has the ball in Oklahoma territory, with the Sooners hoping they can survive their 3 fumbles.
Rogers is flanked to the far side. Cox is split to the near side with Kenny in the slot. Single setback. Taggy gets the first down and more. Jerry Taggy. moving his way down inside the 5 as Kenneth Polk forced him out of bounds.
And Nebraska, too, can run the option play.
For Taggy to run as far as he did on an option, 40-something yards, you know, we had a bust on the play, and that shouldn't happen.
All right, back live, a 1st and goal for the Cornhuskers at the 3 of Oklahoma. Kenny and Olds with the setback. Look at that move. Jeff Kenny pulling away from everyone for a 3-yard touchdown romp. And now it is 20-17 as Nebraska has regained the lead here in the 3rd quarter.
Let's watch Kenny again. It doesn't look like there's any daylight at all. But he finds that crease as Olds makes a beautiful block for him. He hits the safety man and drives right over him, keeping his feet for the touchdown. Here, let's watch it again from the ground level camera. Great block by Olds. There's that hit and spin, and Kenny in the end zone.
We were moving the ball, and Jeff Kenny just went crazy. I mean, he had his best game, and it was a good time for him to have it.
We will return with more from the game of the century on the story of the game. Welcome back to the story of the game. Oklahoma was unable to answer Nebraska's go-ahead touchdown. The Sooners were forced to punt, and Nebraska has the ball, looking to build on its lead. Now back to the greatest game of them all, the 71 Thanksgiving Day showdown between Nebraska and Oklahoma.
Nebraska at their own 39, 1st and 10. Maury Damkroger, number 46, who was alternated fullback with Bill Olds, carried on the play. And his advance is out to the 44 for 5. 2nd and 5 with Nebraska leading 21-17, 6:44 to go in the 3rd quarter.
And they keep picking up that big yardage on 1st down, which makes it very difficult to defense them and stop them.
Cox and Rogers are to the far side. And that's what Bud Wilkinson was referring to as Nebraska moves closer to midfield. Jeff Kenny carrying the ball this time up to about the 49 and very close, but apparently not close enough for a measurement. Nebraska sends Woody Cox and Rogers to this side of the field, or the wide side, from their own 49, 1st down. They lead 21-17. Kenny and Damkroger are the setbacks. Kenny going wild here in the 2nd half. Mark Driscoll making the stop on Jeff Kenny from Cook, Nebraska, number 35.
Basically what we did, we fed Jeff. The line was blowing off the ball pretty good. We were picking up 3-4 yards carry. And as long as we can do that, then we don't have a problem.
Jeff Kenny, 5.8 average, 92 total yards on 16 carries. He's number 35. 1st down from the Oklahoma 36. What a catch by Johnny Rogers. Keith Polk covering on the play as Rogers tried to juke and get more yardage, but the completion moves Nebraska to the Oklahoma 16, a gain of 20 yards.
Let's watch Rogers as he's breaking down the field in the outside pattern. Taggy was running when he threw that ball, and he laid it right on target.
We had a lot of talent on that football team, but Johnny was very unique, and we spent an awful lot of our time trying to get him the ball, and I know defensive coaches spent an awful lot of time trying to prevent us from getting him the balls.
On 3rd and 5 at the 11 of Oklahoma. Here's the pass. Johnny Rogers short of the Oklahoma goal line. John Shelley, number 33 in the dark jersey.
You've got to respect Rogers deep, and when you respect him deep, it's very easy for him to get open short. Look at him breaking to the outside here as he made the deep fake downfield.
Nebraska trying to cap a 61-yard drive as they now have a 1st and goal at the half-yard spot. It darkens here in Norman, Oklahoma, getting more overcast as Anderson goes to the left. Kenny and Damkroger are the setbacks, and Taggy tries to go in. To credit the whole middle of the Oklahoma defense, including Raymond Hamilton.
A 1st down that close to the goal line, Chris. Many coaches don't believe there's any point in taking a chance on handing the ball to anyone else. The quarterback ought to be able to get it over from the 1st down on the 1-yard line.
Jerry Taggy, 215-pound, 6'2" quarterback from Green Bay, Wisconsin. 2nd and goal from the half. But Jeff Kenny goes in. So Jeff Kenny has scored the last 2 touchdowns for Nebraska, going in from the half-yard spot. And the Cornhuskers take a 10-point lead, 27-17. Kenny now with 14 touchdowns for the year.
They were doing to us what we so easily had done to so many other teams. They just didn't have a Pruitt or a Wiley or a Roy Bell or somebody like that that, oh, pow, it's 50 and all of a sudden it's 14-0. They didn't have that kind of runner at tailback. They had a guy just pounded us to death.
We will return with more from the game of the century on the story of the game.
So will be Oklahoma trying to move the ball, which they must at this point of the game, from about their own 28. Jack Mildren stepping forward from his own 28. 45 is Terrio. And you see Glover again, number 79.
He got more tackles in that game than some guys make in a season. In a whole darn season.
Oklahoma faking to Pruitt here. There's Glover driving Brahaney back, freeing himself from Brahaney. There's Pruitt coming in, trying to block him, and he still moves away from Pruitt out to Mildren. He is some football player.
Harrison 12. The split end comes to the near side of the field on 2nd and 5 for Oklahoma from their own 33. Glover says, oh no, to Tim Welsh, number 45. Glover then joined by 250-pound Larry Jacobson, winner of the Outland Trophy as the outstanding lineman of the year, number 75.
I don't recall, Chris, ever seeing a middle guard that so dominates an offensive team as Glover.
I happened to notice at some point, on about the middle of the 3rd quarter, that Bob Devaney was on the sideline with his defense, and he was yelling at them, and he was obviously cussing them and waving his arms.
Bob Devaney was going up and down the sideline with that fist in the air and was challenging his team, his players. He was challenging his players.
He says, hey, Monty, get that defense together over here. I want to get him over on the sideline. So I got them all together. He goes, now let me tell you guys something. I look out there on that field, Rich Glover, he's tackling the dive, the quarterback, and the pitch. He says, what the heck the rest of you guys doing out there?
He said, well, I was just asking everybody on my team if they wanted to help Rich Glover win the damn football game.
You know, he was always in the wrong place. I mean, he was always a place we didn't want him.
Brahaney thought we were talking about the game, and he said he thought he did a pretty good job against Glover. And Glover just ate his lunch.
Brahaney is the All-American center, and he's handling Brahaney most of the time, getting through 1 or 2 blockers moving to the ball.
We had to make something happen, and sometimes trick plays either go for no gain or a loss, or you do have a big play out of it.
Just beyond the 33, it's a 3rd down and 5 for the Sooners, 2:29 to go in the 3rd quarter. They trail by 11. And here is a pass thrown, and it is complete to John Harrison. Harrison trying to get away, can't. But Oklahoma has moved to the 15 of Nebraska. The pass thrown by John Harrison to Albert Chandler, number 82.
Wasn't exactly the most well orchestrated, but it worked.
I really went the wrong way, and he went the wrong way the way it was planned, but it worked out.
That's where you have athletic talent. I mean, Pruitt jumps out of the way. I mean, you know, people weren't in their respective spots, but again, you have enough talent there to make it happen.
A 41-yard play to the 16 of Nebraska. 1st down. The exciting wishbone. Mildren. Look at him pick his way between folks. Quick feet. Bob Terrio, 45, stopped him just inside the 10 at the 8. It's an 8-yard move, though, by Mildren, number 11, as the Oklahoma fans feel that
he was trying to twist his ankle.
There's the yardage situation, Bud.
Oklahoma getting very close to 400 yards. Nebraska having picked up most of their yardage here in the 2nd half.
Which is unheard of, that much yardage against Nebraska. 2nd and 2. Mildren, his own number again, and it appears that he has the 1st down. 1st and goal to go. Oklahoma, Larry Jacobson, number 75, and 24, Bill Cush, on the tackle. Mildren now has gained 101 yards rushing on 23 carries. He has scored 1 touchdown. He has thrown a touchdown to Harrison. So now it is 1st and goal with 1:05 to go in the 3rd quarter. The ball at the 3. No gain. Jacobson. Well, he's beginning to show why he's an All-American, number 75 in white, Bud.
He just kind of overpowered Tim Welch. The fake was to Welch, and he went in to try to hit Jacobson, but he didn't quite get far enough outside of him to cut him to the inside so that Mildren could keep going wide.
Clock running, as you see. Nebraska leading 28-17 after trailing in the ball game 21-17 at halftime. Touchdown, Jack Mildren! So the Boomer Sooners go marching from their own 28. A 72-yard drive in 7 plays, and what an exciting game, Bud.
There's been a lot of great wishbone quarterbacks, and Jack may not have been the fastest, but I think he's one of the toughest, definitely one of the smartest. And I think he did things in the wishbone as a quarterback that coaches taught other quarterbacks that followed to do.
I think Jack Mildren probably should have won the Heisman Trophy that year instead of Pat Sullivan. I thought Jack should have earned. I thought he earned it. He played a great game and he had a great season.
We will return with more from the game of the century on the story of the game. Nebraska did not seem fazed by Oklahoma making the game close again. The Huskers methodically marched down the field, looking to go up by 11. But now it was Nebraska's turn to cough up the ball. Jerry Taggy lost control of the ball. He tried to pass it behind his own back. We now rejoin the action with the Sooners looking to take advantage of the Huskers' miscue.
You just joined us. Nebraska led at the end of the 1st quarter, 7-3. They trailed at halftime, 17-14. At the end of the 3rd quarter, they led 28-24. That's the score now, with Oklahoma getting a 1st and 10 at their own 45. And number 45, Tim Welsh, a 190-pounder from Bowie, Texas, moves near midfield. Next February, the United States gets its first chance to host the World University Winter Games. Some 500 college athletes from 25 countries will be competing in Plattsburgh and beautiful Lake Placid, New York, for international honors in hockey, skating, and skiing. 2nd down and 5 for Oklahoma near midfield. And there is the first opportunity to see the speed of Greg Pruitt. What a play, Bud.
There's the counter option. Let's watch it again. Mildren finally got him to close on him where he could get the ball out to Pruitt for the first time this afternoon. Let's look at it again. Here's Pruitt, a little counter step. Mildren throws the defense, and when he gets it, he can turn it on just like Johnny Rodgers.
Greg Pruitt. His biggest day rushing this year was 294 yards in a game, and as you saw, he has fantastic acceleration. So at the 33 of Nebraska now, following the 17-yard gain, Mildren keeps, and Jacobson is on top of him. And on the bottom, he had some help, too, from 51, Jim Branch of Chicago, Illinois. A gain of 2 to the 31, 2nd down and 8. Mildren, 4 of 6 completions for 1 touchdown, 67%, 122 yards. He's rushed it 27 times, 117 yards, and he has scored a touchdown. In fact, he scored 2. 2nd and 8. And Welsh finds the toughness of the Nebraska defense.
And with time running out, we're getting those critical situations. We've got 3rd down and a long 5.
Yes, it is a long 5. It's more like 6.
Yes, it is.
Welsh playing the fullback position for Oklahoma. As a result, Crosswhite got some bruises early. He's been in and out of the lineup. We have Harrison to the near side on 3rd and 5. Mildren. And it's Welsh. Battles, but is short about a yard and a half of the 1st down, bringing up 4th down. Jim Branch on the tackle. And now listen to the coaches in the stands.
This time there's going to be no disagreement between the coaches on the bench and the coaches in the stands. Oklahoma's going to go for it.
They need almost 2 yards. 8:51 to go in the ball game as Oklahoma trails by 4. The wishbone offense with Harrison split at the bottom of your screen, number 12.
Gotta go wide, I think.
And there's the first down by the bread and butter man, Jack Mildren.
Always a good idea to come back with the next related play to the one that breaks for long yardage. That was the counter option. Mildren, instead of pitching to Pruitt, felt that they would be drifting to cover Pruitt, kept it himself for the first down.
And he moves it to the 21-yard line. The Abilene, Texas native, senior Jack Mildren. There you see the Nebraska defense, which includes Atkins, Jacobson, Terrio, Glover, Branch, Jansen, Harper up front. Mason, Cush, Blayhock, and Anderson in the secondary. And up front, they were tough on Welsh, number 45. Very little gain, as you see the clock running. 28-24, Oklahoma has to penetrate the Nebraska end zone. Oklahoma with 61 rushes for 280 yards. Coming into this game, they averaged 481 yards. Now it's a 2nd down and 9. And Pruitt doesn't have an opportunity to get his head down and go. He's usually in an upright position when he runs into those big Nebraska defenders. Mason, however, the monster man, joined Jacobson on the tackle at about the 17-yard line.
And you keep wondering, when is Oklahoma going to throw it, because the defense stays up very tight against this powerful running attack.
Pruitt, 10 carries, 49 yards. He's in the wishbone on the right-hand side, number 30 of the 2 deep men. 3rd and 6. And knocked away on a beautiful play. Number 18, Jim Anderson, a senior from Green Bay. It was intended for Albert Chandler.
Chandler was open. Mildren underthrew it slightly.
4th down and 6 for Oklahoma with 7 minutes, 14 seconds to go. Nebraska leading 28-24.
Well, it's a season, period. And no need to be melodramatic about it, but it is. And for someone like myself and several others on the offensive line, this is it for us. I mean, we're seniors, and it's the last time on field, 4th down, last chance to win a national championship.
What play do you call here, Chris?
The play that was called was something that was a play we had run. It wasn't an exotic, specially designed play for this situation, and I mean, it depended on our guy beating their guy.
You're the coach, but you did so well here for so many years.
It's going to be a running fake. I believe that we may run the basic option or a pass off the fake.
They need 6 yards. Mildren busting one out here to a man who's open. It's a touchdown. Oklahoma leads. In 11 plays, and Jack Mildren has thrown his 2nd touchdown pass to Harrison, John Harrison, also from Abilene, Texas. So the Abilene boys really shot him down that time.
We played against each other in junior high, and then played together in high school. And John, I mean, goodness gracious, he lived on South 11th, and I lived nearly right off South 20th. Gracious was my roommate. So yeah, I trusted him. I knew what he was doing, and he could make a change or two, a slight nuance, and it, you're used to it because you've seen it so many times.
And again, it was John Harrison beating Billy Cush over in the right corner. And you just have to feel sorry for Billy Cush. It's been a tough day for him. Harrison has just been too much.
We made John Harrison All-American that day because we stopped the run, we stopped the wishboner. That was our plan. We didn't think that Mildren would throw the ball that much. He went play fake on us, and it really threw us out of whack a little bit.
We defensed it wrong, but we should have put a defender instead of a free safety on those wide receivers, but probably that's the only mistake we made.
I do think that we clearly surprised them with our ability to move the ball through the air.
Bill Cush, however, could not defend against Harrison.
When we return to the story of the game, will Nebraska be able to respond and hold on to its #1 ranking?
7 minutes, 5 seconds left to go on that scoreboard clock. And Nebraska's Cornhuskers, if they ever needed one of their patented drives, they need it now. They are 74 yards from home.
In the huddle, it was a real sense of urgency. Guys, this is it. You know, this is what we worked all year for, just one last drive, and sometimes it's the only shot you're going to get, so let's make the best of it.
Now Jerry Taggy from his own 26, 1st and 10, Nebraska in the white jerseys. They trail by 4. And here's Rogers. And he lost his footing.
When we scored, I never dreamed they would score. The thought never occurred, I think, to any of us that they would take it and stick it back the other way.
Oklahoma 31, Nebraska 28. Nebraska #1 in the rankings, Oklahoma #2. 2nd and 6 from the 30. Jerry Taggy. Jeff Kenny.
Chris, you've played all season dreaming about getting into this game. Now you've got 6 minutes and 19 seconds to go, and on both sides, every down, every snap could be the play that decides the ball game, and the pressure equally on the Oklahoma defense to get the ball one more time, and on Nebraska's offense to sustain this drive as we look at Jack Mildren.
What a star he has been. He's putting on a different set of shoes, hopefully of using them soon. But right now, Nebraska 3rd and 1 at their own 35. Taggy. That's a good man to give it to when you need a yard or more. Look at that power runner. Jeff Kenny, Bud.
He was a horse. Jeff was just a rugged kid, a rugged football player. And stamina and ability to play and come through when it demanded.
Moving the ball to the Oklahoma 48, 1st down. Gary Dixon, number 22, who is giving Kenny a rest, carried for the first time today, and now the clock. 5:15 to go. 31-24.
Plenty of time for Nebraska, but if they do score, it'll be awfully short time for the Oklahoma offense.
Ball now is at the 46. It is 2nd down and 8 for the Cornhuskers. They've gone 29 games without defeat. Nice fake by Taggy. Jerry List is going deep, but the receiver is covered, but then coming up short was Rogers on a comeback try off the shoulder pad. 3rd down and 8 for Nebraska.
Never any panic in the huddle. Anybody you ever talks in the huddle but the quarterback, Taggy. And we're just waiting for instructions from the sideline because we have enough confidence in Osborne at this particular time to know that he's upstairs watching what's going down and that he's going to send in the best down and yardage play that's necessary.
This is the game that has overshadowed all the bowl talk because the national rankings, possible national championship at stake, but the pride of both teams are at stake here, and you couldn't dream up a better game.
And this snap could very well decide it.
4:50 to go. 3rd down and 8. A lone setback with 2 wings out and in going out now. Taggy, just missed again by 96 Hamilton. Johnny Rogers caught the ball, and it's a Nebraska 1st down and a big one.
Great play by Jerry. I've seen this play so many times because it's a play that's shown. Great play by him, to make things happen.
I dropped back to pass, I was flush out of the pocket. So I was on the run.
It was a curl pattern, and I had to slide a little bit to get it, and Jerry just had to scramble in order to get the time up to get the ball.
The only place I could throw was between 2 linebackers. So I just had a linebacker here and a linebacker here, and Johnny was curling, so I had to throw the ball here. and there was a safety coming up, so I had to throw the ball low.
I had to go get a lot of balls for Jerry, so it really wasn't that hard to have to go get it. And the rule was that if you could touch it, you had to catch it. And the only thing I'm thinking about, if I can touch it, I have to catch it. And at this point, can't catch. It's not can I catch it, it's have to catch it, because if I don't catch it, we have to turn the ball back over. So it never really was a doubt about catching it.
Huge, huge play. Yeah, that was a great throw and a great catch. It's just one of those things that great athletes do in the moment when they're called upon to do it.
1st and 10 at the Oklahoma 36. Frosty Anderson is in the lineup, split to the near side. There's the Rambler. Can he move? Jeff Kenny.
Jeff had the game of a lifetime. I mean, every time you hear about some of these runners that get stronger as the games go on, and I think that's what happened to Jeff. Jeff just knew it was on his shoulders, and he took the responsibility, and he performed as well as he could possibly perform.
3:59 to go in the game. They trail by 3. Look at this run. Johnny Rogers slipping away, falling to the 15 for a 7-yard gain. Slippery.
Oklahoma in position to make the tackle several times, but it makes a big difference who you're trying to tackle. The clock, the big factor. If Oklahoma does not stop them, it'll be very difficult for them to have time enough left to score.
Woody Cox going to the far side. Rogers is an inside slot man on 2nd and 3 from the 15. And that's the man to give it to. Jeff Kenny.
And I just kept feeding him the ball and feeding him the ball, and he just came up with big plays, and the line was opening up holes, and if they didn't, Jeff was breaking tackles. So those two combinations, I felt, just keep it going.
Nebraska 1st and goal from the Oklahoma 8. Jeff Kenny had a little trouble controlling the ball on the pitch from Taggy, but once he did, he moved upfield for a couple of yards. In on the play, Raymond Hamilton 96 and Selman 98 at the 6-yard line.
And that clock continues to tick away. If Nebraska scores, there'll be less than 2 minutes for Oklahoma. If they do not score, they'll not get the ball again.
Right now, 2nd and goal at the 6.
Somebody calls a timeout, and I wonder who's calling this timeout, because I had the defense right where we had them on the 4-yard line, and the coaching staff called the timeout. And they just wanted to regroup and want to know what my thoughts were. And I said, well, I'm just going to keep giving the ball to Kenny. And Bob said, good, just get in here and call it with authority.
All right, the Huskers, on a 2nd down, 6 to go for the touchdown, are in the eye with Kenny at the top of the eye. Oklahoma loading that line up there to stop him. Taggy calling his count. He gives the ball to Kenny outside the left side. He's dragging people to the 2-yard line. No, Kenny hangs on to the ball. It got away when they pulled him down, but he was down, and the crowd is booing. They think he should have lost the ball. But Kenny, outside left tackle, got 4 of those 6. And now it's 3rd down, 2 to go for the touchdown. The clock shows 1 minute and 55 seconds. Nebraska wants to use all of it they can. 2 shots to go 2 yards. Jeff Kenny in the top of the eye. Taggy, the quarterback, calls his count at the line of scrimmage. Taking a long count there, he gives to Kenny. Kenny over the left side, touchdown! On that drive. 74 yards on that drive, and Nebraska forges into the lead, 34-31. Oh, man, woman, and child, I never thought I would live this long to see this kind of a football game.
Jeff Kenny got stronger and stronger and stronger, and I think our offensive line started wearing down the defensive line.
Jeff was a strong back, great determination, and I remember at that time they wore the tearaway jerseys, and I think he went through a whole bunch of them. He took a beating, but he played a great football game.
As I look back over, that's a very impressive drive to take the ball and to milk the clock like they did and make several crucial plays and take it in to score.
We will return with the conclusion of the game of the century on the story of the game. The game of the century had definitely lived up to its billing, but the Sooners still had some time left for a miracle. As we return to Owen Field, the Sooners have the ball with their season and national championship hopes hanging in the balance.
Oklahoma scored in 55 seconds right before the first half. They've got almost twice as much time left in this half.
Well, it's defense. It's Richard Glover time.
We just couldn't sit there and play the wishbone because they had to throw the ball to catch up at that time.
They have to move it from their own 19 with a 1st and 10. And Mildren immediately wants to go to the air, throwing it long. Oh, Harrison had his man beaten, but the pass was overthrown. 27, Joel Blahak of Columbus, Nebraska, was covering Harrison on the play. Jack Mildren, disappointed.
The guy was open. He had our guy beat by about 4 or 5 yards.
My heart went to my throat, and but he overthrew. That was the only pass, the bad pass he had all game.
I overthrew Harrison, and I'll give me another 10 years, and I'll have him dropping it probably out as I continue to tell the story, but that's one of those what-ifs that doesn't count anymore.
And then we also turned our defensive line loose a little bit on the pass.
Now trailing by 4, 1:21 to go. And the #1 defensive unit in the nation, led by Larry Jacobson, number 75, throw Mildren for the loss inside the 15-yard line, bringing up 4th down and about 14 with 1:14 to go, Bud.
And Nebraska one snap away from maintaining the #1 rating and defending their national championship.
That ball is now back after that loss to the 15-yard line, and it's 4th and 14. 4th and 14, and this is the biggest play, has to be the biggest play in the history of Nebraska football, right here. Certainly, Bob Devaney made no bones about it. He said before this ball game, it was the very biggest ball game of his career. Come down here and play Oklahoma on their home field with #1 ranking at stake, and to play such a great football team. All right, they split the end on the right. Harrison. Mildren fakes. He's back there to throw. He got away from Jacobson. Then the ball knocked down by Glover, and Jacobson's on it in the end zone. No good, but Nebraska takes over the ball. What great play by Big Larry Jake. He just won the Outland Trophy 7 times over, and look at that sideline. Look at that sideline go wild. What magnificent defense. Jacobson hit the passer and then slowed him up. Glover came in to knock the ball down as it left the hands of Jack Mildren, and 1 minute 10 seconds left on the clock, and I am going out of my gourd.
After that, we knew we had the game won, and it was just bedlam on the sidelines.
Pandemonium, absolutely pandemonium.
It was so gratifying because we knew I mean, that was a good football team we just beat.
It's hard to explain the feelings at that time because, I mean, when you set a goal and it's almost an unsurmountable goal, but you believe you can do it, and then you've done it. I mean, you're at the highest level that you can be, and it's something that will wear with you for your whole life.
To think of all the years and all the time and effort and that we had been through, and to know that it really wasn't going to end up in the goal that we desired, it's tough, and when you're 21, you know, sometimes you're not sure the sun's going to come up.
When we landed, we couldn't get to the terminal because there were so many fans out on the runway. They estimated there were 30,000 people out at the airport. We got on the buses and you know, trying to get out through that kind of congestion was something. Everybody screaming and yelling, and it was just, you know, it was just a lot of fun. And then we went out to have a few drinks after the game, and we didn't have to worry about buying anything because it was all given to us.
We will return with more from the game of the century on the story of the game. Oklahoma and Nebraska didn't have much time to reflect on the Huskers' victory because both teams had one regular season game left. Nebraska traveled to Hawaii and easily defeated the University of Hawaii Rainbows, while Oklahoma crushed interstate rival Oklahoma State. That left only the bowl games, which basically served as a mini SEC Big 8 Challenge Series, with Auburn and Oklahoma meeting in the Sugar Bowl and Nebraska taking on Alabama in another 1-versus-2 matchup in the Orange Bowl. These games were no contest. The Sooners beat the Tigers by 3 touchdowns, and Nebraska took number 2 Alabama behind the woodshed, 38-6. These bowl games left no doubt as to who the 2 best teams in college football were in 1971.
I won it at halftime with us leading 32-0. And you got to remember, Alabama just beat Auburn late in the fourth quarter, 14-7, to win the Orange Bowl berth in the SEC. And I remarked to our players, I said, you know, there's a team tonight that's watching this that realizes and probably expects what's going to happen to them tonight and in the Orange Bowl. And that wasn't Nebraska I was talking about. It'd be Alabama watching what we were doing to them. They had to realize what they were going to face that night, and of course that night they were completely dominated by Nebraska.
Not to belittle Alabama at all, but I went down to the Orange Bowl and was just kind of a week of fun and vacation, and we knew we were going to win.
It was a mismatch. I mean, we just blew them out. It really didn't have the same type of significance of number 1 and number 2 when that was the biggest game of the year there. But the biggest game of the year that we knew was actually against Oklahoma.
That Oklahoma game was the game, and that's one I'll remember.
It's just too bad that other people can't sometime in their life have that feeling.
It really has withstood the test of time, and yeah, I'm proud of that. It was, yeah, I think an enormous honor to play in the game. I don't know that I thought that very day that years and years later it would continually be voted the best game of the century, if you will, the best game ever played.
It's carried forward. I mean, sometimes I don't understand it. You know, you guys get a life. Why are you still talking about this game?
It's the game of the century for real. For real. Yeah, for being no other.
I would have to say that in my experience of the last 4,000 years, it's probably the greatest college game that's been played, with everything riding on it.
Dave Kinron, then a sports writer in Louisville, wrote The Perfect Lead, as far as I'm concerned. They can quit playing now. They played the perfect game. And to me, it is still the greatest college game of all time. History of college football, it's still the greatest game of all time.
I was 9 years old watching that game, probably one of tens of millions of Americans who told their moms, forget it, I'm not coming to the family dinner table, I'm going to stay and watch this game. It was well worth eating cold turkey and stuffing to see that game. I'm Chris Fowler. I hope you enjoyed the story of the game, the greatest game ever played. The ESPN Classic will continue in a moment.
Again, that final score, and Mama, it was 35-31. That's all she wrote. And we've seen it all and are ready to die in Norman, Oklahoma.